Good evening, everyone. Another Tuesday evening. I'm hoping that we're going to be up on Facebook as well in a moment. Let's have a look. I think we are. Let's go live. It's not setting up as go live anyway. I should sort that out later on. Anyway, good to see you all this evening. Another Tuesday evening. Hopefully you'll see me on Facebook if that is possible. Let's have a look. Oh, it's be starting in a moment. Brilliant. Okay, here we go. So, my name is Delroy Hall, and I'm continuing the session tonight on moral injury. Oh, good evening, Sonia. Listen, just try and see if you're on a different device to see whether you can or not. You can pick me up on Facebook. I should be, but let's see how it all goes for this evening. So, I'm still continuing the subject matter of moral injury, and welcome to those who might be here for the first time. But tonight, I'm looking at something called DARVO, which folks have never heard of, some folks have never heard of, but it's something that's around, has been around, and when I've described it to people, people say, hey, I've been experiencing that, or I'm experiencing it now. So I'm going to say a little bit more about that this evening. So here's part of the definition. So, and I'll just all right, good evening. If you want to send us a message as well, Sonny, just to make sure that it's up and running, that'd be great. And do that. Okay. Brilliant. And here as well, the same thing. Yeah. So DARVO, really kind of interesting idea. DARVO, D-A-R-V-O. I did mention it some time ago in one of my newsletters and mentioned it in one of the broadcasts. So I really just ask a question. My name is Delroy Hall. Anything that I do on these shows are just for basic information, but it doesn't substitute you going to see a therapist or your doctor or a nurse or a psychotherapist or a counselor or a psychologist. This is just kind of hints and tips just to give you some insights. And what it seems to me that it's giving you some people some language that people are able to discuss and maybe just get some sense of what's taking place in their life. And certainly please free to ask a question relevant to the topic, but also if you want to DM me after the program, and if you want to contact me for a free initial consultation, please do. People have done so already, and I'm really grateful for that. And certainly people are engaging outside of the session. So DARVO. So have you ever been caught out? You've rocked up to a meeting. So I'll paint a bit of a scenario, then I'll say a bit more in a bit. You're expecting certain things, and then almost as the element of surprise, the meeting has taken a turn that you did not expect. And you went in. In fact, he was billed in a particular way, and now you're seen as the target. So DARVO, D-A-R-V-O, stands for deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. So I just want to give a definition. It's attack. So I'm talking about DARVO in the workplace, but DARVO can be used in relationships, in marriage relationships, where there is people. And I'll say a little bit more about the kind of type of personality and so as we gather this evening. Thank you, sound engineer. Thank you. So DARVO is a tactic a person may use to deflect responsibility on an individual they have abused. It is a form of manipulation a person may use to discredit a survivor's experience. So somebody's been abused, they come forward, they want to expose it all, and then the perpetrator does this thing called DARVO. So deny, attack, reverse, victim, offender. In the workplace, though, it's a manipulative strategy, often used by the individuals who feel threatened or defensive because their behavior has been confronted. So that's what happens. So I'll paint the scenario. You've seen some behavior, some unprofessional practice, and you're encouraged to say what it is, and certainly on the website and all the literature it talks about with this type of company, ethical and moral, and you see some things or you're asked to do something and totally against policy. So you're told there's going to be an investigation. and we'll tell you the outcome. So you're then invited to a meeting, and to your shock, horror, the meeting is not what you thought. And then things are said in a way that it catches you off guard. It's the element of surprise. It catches you off guard, and there's a sense of injustice. So you've been invited to the meeting to hear the findings of this investigation, and you can't believe what you're hearing. It's surreal. You're hearing some stuff and you wonder whether you're in the real world or not. And your body immediately starts to react to what you hear. There's a form of psychological, physiological, and emotional response to what you're hearing. Those of you who've experienced DARVO, somebody wrote to me literally this week after seeing the newsletter, I think it was yesterday, said that they didn't know there was a language for it, but they've experienced it, and it's not pleasant at all. Psychologists will tell you being accused of something you haven't done causes emotional distress. That's kind of obvious. The emotional toll of being falsely accused can result in feelings of anger, rage, sadness, and betrayal. And this emotional distress can cause us to really struggle in day-to-day living. And in my newsletter, I've left a link for you to read. Back in 2020, I was asked to do a workshop on the invisible and unspoken consequences of injustice. Part of the problem of DARVO is that as human beings, there's something, I guess, it gets as your core, it gets to your inner being if you've been falsely accused. And there's this sense of injustice that you've been wrong. So injustice, see, these are some of the notes I made at the time, and I went back to look at my PowerPoint slides. Injustice, this is what happens to us. There's disbelief, fear, horror, rage, paralysis, chronic embitterment, meaning that it's gone on for a long time, and you've got a sense of in fact, sometimes you can be witnessing injustice against other people and you want something done about it. You want revenge. So this form of manipulation, it happens in the meeting and it catches you really off guard. And I want to say that those feelings of anger and rage are abnormal feelings to an abnormal situation. You walked into a meeting, you were told it was one thing, you were told it was the results of the investigation, so you go in with a particular mindset. You're not looking to catch anybody out, but you want the business or the organization to run at a particular level so people are safe and so forth. And to your horror, what you hear, you just can't even believe it's happening. So there's a snowball effect, as I call it, of being manipulated. Your head and your body, they're all in a spin. There's conflicting thoughts and emotions, and you're not too sure even what's going on. The consequences of this manipulation is there's a damage of trust, it causes resentment, and also your well-being and your mental health are compromised. It's really important to kind of know that that's what happens to you when these things happen. Please feel free to let me just see if I can just get the banner up. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, please feel free to in fact, it can't be seen on Facebook actually, but certainly on LinkedIn and YouTube. If you want to ask a question, please do. And I'll just close this for a moment. Please do, and I'll do my best to oh, brilliant, thank you, Sonia, I've just seen it, thank you much indeed. Yes, I'll do my best to answer whilst I'm here, but if I can't answer, one of the things I won't do, I won't blag you. I'll say to you, look, I really can't answer that, but leave your obviously I'll have your name, and I'll do a bit of research, and I will come back to you with an answer, at least some form of response. Let me kind of get rid of that. Okay, brilliant. So let me just take that. Ooh. Okay, brilliant. Okay, so management's there, HR there, they're talking to you, but you're not. Have you ever been in a situation where people are talking to you, but you've got that much going on in your mind? You don't even know what's being said. It's just unbelievable. And then in all this mess, remember, it's deny, attack, and then reverse victim offender. All of a sudden, out of the blue, you're then told about we have some concerns about your performance and some of the things that's been happening to you. And you've never heard them before, and it catches you off guard. You hear, you think, and you hear comments about extra supervision, extra training, never been mentioned before until you made an issue about this particular situation. You've gone into an emotional tailspin. And what Catherine Marshall, a lawyer in America, she calls it fake investigations. That you're told there's going to be an investigation, but it's a fake investigation. Because when you turn up to, in fact, some investigation, you never hear anything of it. And then sometimes when you turn up to the meeting, you just can't believe what you're hearing. I think one of the things I've really struggled with, and maybe there's somebody in HR who's listening or may not be listening, or you may be associated with HR, why do things take so long? I've known simple things that have happened, they've gone on for months and even over a year. Certainly in one place I worked, there was a particular issue that happened between two members of staff. The thing went on for about 18 months. It was ludicrous. Then what happened, it causes problems in the relationship because it's not resolved quickly. So Catherine Marshall, if you go onto LinkedIn and you put fake investigations, Catherine Marshall, she's a lawyer in America, and there's a brief video on this whole thing around fake investigations. So what you've not realized, you walked into this meeting and then DARVO techniques have been used, false investigation, but what you've not grasped is that DARVO is a form of gaslighting. Some of you may be familiar with the term. Gaslighting comes from a movie in the 30s, I believe it was, where there was a man, I think, was trying to get his wife's wealth, and I think she wasn't well. She was upstairs in the room, and he was downstairs, and he kept flicking the light switch. And when she said to him, "Can you see any problems with the light?" He said, "No, nothing wrong at all." And she goes back to her room. He starts flicking the light switch. That's called that's the whole idea of gaslighting. Basically, what people are doing, they're attempting to cause you to, for want of a better term, question your own sanity. And that's what happens in these type of meetings. DARVO, deny what you said, it's denied, you're then attacked, and then the person who's committed the offense becomes a victim, and now you become the offender, this reverse victim offender. So I want to talk a little bit about the type of personalities. And it's really important that we know what the type of personality is. They're what they're called narcissists. Somebody recommended me a book. I've not asked her, I didn't get a chance to ask her whether or not I could use her name, but there's a book called Snakes in Suits When Psychopaths Go to Work by two psychologists in America, Paul Babayat and Robert Hayes. The book is called Snakes in Suits. Let me just put it here on Facebook. The book is called Snakes in Suits. There you go. Oops, hang on. It should be Snakes in Suits. They're not Sankies. So let's go there again. Snakes in Suits. There you go. Snakes in Suits. And I'll just put it across to here as well, so you've got it. So, but there's some stuff on YouTube. Snakes in Suits When Psychopaths Go to Work. So this is this whole thing about you hear the term nowadays about narcissists, and it's kind of words that kind of falls off people's tongue. But this is what a narcissist or narcissistic personality disorder. A mental health condition where people have an unreasonably high sense of their own importance. They need and seek too much attention and need people to admire them. Many lack the ability to understand or care about the feelings of others. There's lots, so they're really kind of self-absorbed. They really are a sense of their own superiority, and they lack insight to other people's feelings. So these are some of the characteristics or some of the signs of a narcissist. And so I'll just say this and then I'll add a little bit more. Narcissist is something they're beginning to study a little bit more, but they seldom seek treatment. And one of the things, one of the overriding characteristics of narcissists, they are never, ever, ever, ever wrong. They're always right. So these are some of the signs of a narcissist. There's a sense of entitlement, a sense of superiority. This is who I am. Look how important I am. They're manipulative. They are incredibly controlling. There's no flexibility. There's no leniency. There's no give. They are incredibly controlling. There is this overextended need for admiration. Look at me. Now, it's never said in that way, but it's said in a way that I'm so important. Look at me. There's a lack of empathy, no regard or either no insight of other people's emotions, and there's a sense of arrogance. You can imagine if there's a sense of entitlement, a sense of superiority, clearly there's this whole thing around arrogance, full of self and so forth. It's an extreme self-involvement, ignoring the needs of others around you. And for me, when those individuals have power, the level of destruction and damage they can do is absolutely incredible. So these are, listen, this is a, if you want to find out more about narcissism and narcissistic tendency, there's loads of stuff on YouTube. I don't really need to spend much more time on that, but they are difficult people to work with. On my post this morning, I wrote something about the narcissist prayer. And I prefaced it by talking about when I was training as a psychotherapist, we had a very seasoned and experienced therapist who came in and gave us a lecture on the narcissistic wound and narcissism. And somebody asked the question. In fact, she had a particular client, and one of the students says, can you really do any work with them? And she said, maybe yes, maybe after 5 years in therapy, if they stick with it. Because they are never, ever wrong. There's no insight, incredibly defended in terms of you being able to get close to them. So whether or not knowingly or unknowingly, but my mind, my way of thinking is somebody's presented something which is factual, and you and your team are sat together to plot something. For me, some people say that narcissism is unconscious, some say it's conscious, but for me, if you willfully deny what the person is saying, for me, that's something that's really conscious. Okay, so what can be done? Somebody tonight said to me, what can we do? Now, what I'm going to say next is easier said than done. Remember, you've been called into a meeting, so you're expecting one thing, and then within seconds, you realize that you're the person being targeted, you're the person who's now the offender, and everything's on top of you. And then, of course, your body is gone onto overdrive. There's overwhelm. There's you're engulfed with emotion, and your heart's beating. Your palms are sweaty. Your blood pressure is raised up. Your levels of anxiety have improved. To think clearly is incredibly difficult. And for some people, you may have to experience once, and you learn from that. And then maybe the next place that you go to, you'll kind of wise up pretty quickly. So what can we do when we deal with things in the moment? That's what it's about. In a tailspin, how do we gather ourselves together? So what I'm saying is some of this stuff is in theory, some of the stuff can be done, and I might share something that happened to me many years ago in a meeting. So you might recall in one of my newsletters I spoke about when we're in an emotional tailspin, it's about jamming the rudder in the opposite direction. So something like, hold on a second, that can shift the dynamic. If you're able to say, hold on a minute, no, this is not what this meeting is about, these are the facts. But you have to have a real strong sense of self and wherewithal where you can actually stand up. So as I said, I love the quote by I was told it was Tyler Perry, but apparently it was Maya Angelou. When people show you who they are, believe them. So I would say that, and one of the ways I think that you can prepare yourself is, how has management and HR and leadership been with other people? And I've always had this thing about work. If it can happen to one person, it can happen to me. If you see people who stand up for something, then being badly treated, and then you see something and say something, you can bet your cotton socks, as we say in England, it's going to happen here as well. It's going to happen to you as well. So it's about wising up, seeing that also that it could happen to you. Secondly, if you have reported something, you're listening to this now, or you've got a friend, share this with them. You've reported something and you've been told there's going to be an investigation. What I would suggest that you do before you called into the meeting, arm yourself. Do not be caught off guard. Arm yourself. And I'm going to give some tips how you can actually arm yourself. And even if proceedings are going, there's still time to put things on the table. Don't get sidetracked by these individuals. Bring the topic back on. That's number 2. Bring the topic back on the table. Don't allow yourself to be sidetracked. It is not about your performance, but it's about unethical professional behavior. That's what the original incident was about. You can talk about my performance and my practice and so forth. I've gone off on oh, here we go. I'm back again. This is don't get sidetracked. So, but you need a sense of self for that to happen and take place. Let me just clear that. Okay. Number 3, if those interrogating you to refuse to acknowledge the topic, you're free to leave the meeting. I've only done that once when I was there's some. In fact, we had this meeting years ago now. I wasn't too long in leadership, and these 2 individuals complained about the leadership team. And I remember one person went on for about 20 minutes, and so I listened, and in fact we all listened, and I said, okay, you've seen the problem, what do you suggest? And the person went on for another 15 minutes. So person had 20 minutes, I've listened, never interrupted. I said, okay, so she had another 15 minutes. I said, okay, I've listened to you now for 2 lots of times. What do you suggest that can help us to move forward? And she went on again for another 10 minutes. And I said, I stood up and I said, gentlemen, I'll leave you to finish the meeting. It's quite clear you don't want to move forward. And I left the meeting. And I was really, listen, I was really scared, young in leadership position and very senior men around me. And what was the conclusions? Well, to be honest, that was about 25 years ago. I'm still here. They're still ranting and raving in other places. And I think sometimes you just need to have the courage to do what you need to do. Stand up. Don't let people sidetrack you. And actually sometimes put the agenda to them. Say, okay, what do you suggest? You know, it's great complaining. And I've learned this years ago. It's great complaining. And there's many people that do. And when people complain, you ask them, what do you suggest? You've criticized, you've ridiculed, you've demeaned. What do you suggest to move forward? Quite often, people that don't mean you well haven't got a solution at all. And I would say, do you know what? Don't give them the time of day. Move on. Be very polite to them. Don't be rude to them. But they really haven't got your best interest at heart. So if they refuse to believe you or listen to you, they don't want to get on track, leave the meeting. Once you recognize what is taking place in the meeting, call it out. If you now you might not want to say in the meeting, oh, this is DARVO. They won't have a clue what you're talking about. But maybe you say, look, this was the original thing, but now the meeting's taken a sidetrack. Now I'm being attacked. You're in denial of what's been said and so forth. So it's a form of gaslighting that's kind of going on. And stand up and base the meeting on the facts, the original intention of the meeting. If you can, number 5, if you can, be assertive, stand up for yourself at that moment, because in that meeting, nobody else is. It could be in that meeting, somebody knows that what they're doing is wrong, but they are outnumbered by the mob. So there's nobody in your corner if you just rocked up to a meeting. However, if you know what people are like in the meeting, you don't go on your own. You ask, can I bring somebody with me? And if the answer is no, you don't have the meeting. You won't get the outcome of the meeting. But if you know what people are like, don't go in like a lamb to the slaughter. Have somebody with you, even as a silent partner. They may not like that, but you have the right to do that. If you can remain calm, one of the things that people don't like when they're starting to deny and attack you, and they really dislike you being calm. Now you need a good sense of self, and strong, and be able to stand your ground, to able to be very calm when they're quite nervy in one way of denying and attacking you. In the moment of being calm, you're gathering your thoughts. Really important. If HR or management are the perpetrators of DARVO, you cannot really report to them, only except at your exit interview. And I'm going to mention a quote about that towards the end. It's a time then, if you've got a union, you seek the support of the union, or if not, you go in England, we've got ACAS, an independent body funded by the government, and they offer advice, they offer training for employees of their legal rights as employee, and they know a lot about employment law, what you're entitled to, what your rights are in difficult circumstances. So I've spoken about them before, so it's really good that let me just clear that down, so that you kind of get a hold of that. Okay, get yourself equipped. Obviously not at the moment, but maybe after the meeting. Too many of us as employees, we rely too heavily on management in our workplaces to know our rights, and quite often they don't. And what I'm going to say next might sound really awful, but oftentimes management, leadership, HR is not there for your benefit. It's for the organization, not yours. So get equipped, educate yourself. That's really important. And also, not just also on your rights, but educate yourself about narcissistic behavior. You know, there's lots of material out there, and you might say, well, that's not part of my job description. No, it's not. But one of the things when we go to work, we're doing more than the job description. We're working with difficult people. We're working with group dynamics and personalities and so forth. And we need to have a sense of who we're working with and the way in which they operate and how we operate as well. That's really important. There's a lot there, but you can watch it on WhatsApp. Instead of watching Coronation Street, you can learn some stuff here that might save you and kind of keep your mental health together. I wish the subject of moral injury was scarce, but it's not. When we go to work, we not only have to contend with people and group dynamics, we have to encounter some management and leadership types too, and particular personality types in leadership with power. Consider your workplace management leadership not only as an environment, but a personality type. One of the things I've always said, that workplace have cultures, they have personalities. And I've been involved in many churches, and you can have the same organization and 2 or 3 churches are literally 5 or 6 miles apart, and they've all got a different culture made up of the people, the personalities inside. And you can have the same organization, whereby within the same one organization, you can have one place over here, depending on who the leader is, where there's team spirit, there's a pulling together, people, they have tense moments, but there's a maturity about the team and they get things done. Over here in the same organization, you have a fractious, narcissistic leader and very little trust in the team. Things take a long time to get sorted out. There's no room for discussion. There's no room for making mistakes. So everybody's watching behind the backs and so forth within the same organization. Remember, the organization not only have cultures, but they have personalities too. In one department can be one personality. In another department can be another personality too. Doing your job well is more nuanced than fulfilling the duties on your job description. Look after yourself as best you can, because nobody else will look after you as best as you. Leave nothing for granted. And I will finish with this quote that I heard from Douglas Carswell, a former Conservative MP, regardless of his politics. He said that he's now living in America, and he said this, and I'll say this to you if you're listening, and you're listening to the sound of my voice, looking at DARVO, DARVO, deny, attack, reverse, victim, offender. If you are in a workplace, this is what Douglas Carswell said about a particular matter, but I'm going to use it to end tonight. A great life hack is to go where you are appreciated. A great life hack is to go where you are appreciated. If you've reported something and that you've been told there's going to be an investigation, if you've turned up to a meeting and you realize that you are the target, your workplace means you no good. So get the hell out of there as quickly if you can. If you can't do it today, can you have a plan in place that you can leave in 6 months' time or 8 months' time, 9 months' time, and in the process you seek support, get support outside of work to help you navigate the next few months before you leave. Because once this type of meeting starts, it never ends. It escalates. And you don't want to be at a place where you medically retired or you leave because your psychological, emotional, and physical well-being have been hugely compromised. Watch out for the signs of DARVO. Look after yourself, and I'll see you next week at 7 o'clock. Please, if you found this helpful, share it with individuals. If you kind of get a sense that your work colleague or your friend who works in another organization is going through something similar, share this video with them. Subscribe to my channel if you want to. I'd be great if you do. And I'll meet you next week, Tuesday at 7 o'clock. So enjoy the rest of your evening and the rest of your week. Looking forward to seeing you once again. Take care. All the best. Bye-bye.